class is now in session. I'm Professor Hockey, and today we'll be discussing some extremely exciting news coming out of the San Jose Sharks camp today, and that is that they have signed forward prospect Will Smith to an entry-level deal, which means he will not be continuing his career at the college level, but will instead be starting his professional career with the San Jose Sharks organization. Now, this was always a likely scenario to occur with Will Smith, as a 4th overall draft pick, was expected to have a freshman year in college, more sort of get up to speed, fill out a bit more, and then make the transition to the NHL level. But it was certainly not a guarantee, especially when you consider the fact that his two longtime line mates, Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard, have both committed to the college level next season. So it was certainly possible for Will Smith to join his buddies to wrap up a bit of unfinished business at the college level, considering the fact that Boston lost in the final matchup against Denver for the NCAA championship. So going back there, winning a championship, and then making the jump to the NHL was a path he could have taken, but the San Jose Sharks managed to convince Will Smith to sign with San Jose, and we are all incredibly grateful for that choice, because it's going to be very exciting to watch the beginning of his development to hopefully becoming an elite player at the NHL level, considering Will Smith is currently, at least for the next month until the 2024 NHL entry draft, the Sharks' top prospect. In fact, if you take a look around the league in general, Will Smith is considered to be one of the best prospects currently outside of the NHL. So it won't just be Sharks fans who are keeping an eye on this player, but instead fans around the league will be keeping an eye on him, as he is now immediately becoming a favorite for the Calder Trophy for the league's best rookie as soon as next season. Now, Will Smith's year this year didn't necessarily start off all that fantastically. He was putting up a good amount of points near the beginning of this season in the NCAA, but in terms of the expectations where he was expected to be leading the league, perhaps, or at least right up there with a couple of the other huge name players like Macklin Celebrini or Cutter Gauthier, he instead found himself outside that top 5, more so hovering around the top 10 in NCAA scoring, and even taking a bit of a closer look at freshman scoring, he wasn't leading in that category either. However, as the season wore on, he got better and better. The points started to rack up more and more and more, and eventually by the end of the season, he would indeed win the NCAA scoring race with 71 points, the first college player to hit the 70-point mark since Kyle Connor did it back in 2016, 8 years ago, and we know now how prolific of a player Kyle Connor is at the NHL level. If Will Smith could quite hit that level in his career, that would be an extremely good outcome for the San Jose Sharks. And one of the best things about Will Smith that we saw during his NCAA season is that he is a big game player. And a lot of the very important games that Boston College had throughout their season championship game or mini tournament games, it was primarily Will Smith raising his level of play to perform at a very, very high level. There was one particular game against Boston University, the team led by future San Jose Sharks draft pick Macklin Celebrini, where Will Smith put up a 4-goal performance to help Boston College secure the number 1 seed from their division. This was just an incredibly important feat and one of many high MVP type performances that Will Smith had that particular season. But it was not just in the NCAA where Will Smith managed to show off, but he was also a performer at the World Junior Championship with Team USA near the end of December and in the early parts of January. Now, as an 18-year-old player, he's not necessarily going to be given the time of day by the coaching staff. Coaches are usually heavily favoring the 19-year-olds, the players who are in the final possible eligibility year for that particular tournament, because they are, even just single-year gaps between players could be massive in terms of their development paths. And so usually you're giving the 19-year-olds the most amount of ice time. But Will Smith was still managing to hang along, get points here or there through the round robin type of the group stage. But when it came to those elimination games, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and then of course the final matchup, Will Smith once again showed himself to be a big game player and managed to be maybe not the MVP for the United States, that could be somewhat arguable, but one of their best players throughout those games. It's kind of similar to what we see from a longtime San Jose Sharks player Logan Couture, where during the regular season he is putting up a good amount of points, not quite at the level of like the Joe Thorntons or the Joe Pavelskis, but like 60-70 points. But when it comes to the postseason, where these are the types of performances that matter. Logan Couture not only becomes the leading scorer for the San Jose Sharks, but one of the best scorers around the entire league at that level. It was showed that Logan Couture, when it came to those big games, was incredible, and Will Smith is at least beginning to show that he's that very same type of player. We also got to see Will Smith participate at the Men's World Championship that just recently concluded, of course, also with Team USA. Now, I mentioned that at the World Junior levels, coaches are heavily going to prefer to go with their 19-year-olds compared to their 18-year-olds. Well, that is 10 times worse at the Men's World Championship, where coaches are going to be significantly more likely to go with their more veteran 25 to 30-year-old players than with the 18-year-old player who hasn't played a single game at the NHL level, especially since coaches at the Men's World Championship don't need to bother trying to develop these rookie players. They don't particularly care. They just want to win that specific tournament. And so Will Smith definitely wasn't given much ice time. In fact, he was a healthy scratch in a decent chunk of the games that they played. And even in the ones that he dressed, he'd get maybe 5 minutes of ice time. But it was a taste of what Will Smith could expect in terms of speed at the NHL level, and gave him that sort of perhaps small seed of thinking that he would want to make that jump. So it was still an incredibly important tournament for Will Smith to participate in, and it perhaps played into a part in him wanting to sign with the San Jose Sharks. Now the question now becomes, where will he start his career with? Will it be in with the San Jose Sharks, or will it be with the San Jose Barracuda? Now, I imagine he may spend some time in the AHL in terms of a couple of situations. For instance, if he starts off the preseason/training camp not looking all that great, it is very possible he begins with the San Jose Barracuda, finds his footing there within the first dozen games, and then makes the jump to the NHL. It is also certainly possible he starts with the San Jose Sharks, but if he is unable to handle the extremely tough load of a full 82-game season, perhaps he dips down with the Barracuda for a stretch of games at the halfway mark. That is a possibility, but I do still imagine in any case that Will Smith will primarily be spending most of his time at the NHL level for this upcoming season, and likely to be joined by future first overall draft pick Macklin Celebrini. This does mean that the San Jose Sharks will have an incredibly fun team to watch as soon as next year. One question that does come up is what exactly the Sharks are going to do when it comes to their center depth, because currently the Sharks do have both Logan Couture and Mikael Granlund, and then both Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith are centermen, so you don't really want to have Will Smith be a fourth-line center and Macklin Celebrini be a third-line center, so it's possible that one or both of these players end up playing on their off position. Of course, this is considering that Logan Couture is actually fully healthy and ready to go for next season, so it's possible we see Will Smith at a winger role, but at least one thing is for sure, he's going to be with the team, he's going to be getting some NHL games, and this season is going to be significantly more interesting to watch than last. Class dismissed.